I've spoken to one or two people who are saying, well, who are they? Anyway, you'll get an opportunity, because I think each one of them is just going to say a few short words about what their business is. But before I hand over to Rudy to do the introduction, I'd just like to make reference to two other groups. One is the British Consultants and Construction Bureau, which is an important group of mainly larger businesses who are involved in infrastructure. There are quite a number of them here. They are on their way through. They're just making a stop-off at Johannesburg on their way to Angola, and they are looking at business opportunities in the region, very much in partnership with South African or indeed other companies. So they're doing a scoping mission for Angola, and we had a reception at lunchtime for that group. But a number of them, and I think in fact probably about at least half of them are here as well this evening, and they might be of interest for people to come along. And then the third group I would like to mention is the group which some of you will have heard about before, and that's the Bruffs. And people say, what are the Bruffs? Well, they're the people who are smiling with big grins on their faces right now. It's a group of people who were all black students who went to the United Kingdom at the end of the 1980s, and it was run for 3 years by the British government. And I daren't tell you how much it cost per person, but it's turned out those people went and they did 2 years A-level studies in the United Kingdom. They then went to a different part of the UK and did an undergraduate, their first degree, an undergraduate degree. So they spent 5 years at the very formative parts of their lives, learning about Britain, learning in Britain, and I genuinely believe that group of people have a better understanding of the British psyche than we do ourselves, because they can look at it from the outside. And as some of you will have heard me say this morning, or indeed on other occasions, the whole black empowerment agenda, the whole transformation challenge that South Africa faces is going to largely be fed by companies from outside South Africa making investments or making commitments, partnerships with South Africa. But you don't do that on your own. You need people to work with. And I think the Bruffs represents one particular group of people who, I think there's about 200 altogether if they manage to get 100%, and I think they're not so very far off having identified all of the Bruffs who went over. But that represents a group of people who I believe would be potentially very, very good starting points at the very least for partnership with companies coming out from Britain. And that's something that I very much want to foster. So, so there are those groups here, and of course we've got a number of guests from South Africa, South African businesses, South African government representatives I've seen here this evening as well. So I think it's great to have you all here. Thank you very much. I think there'll be all sorts of opportunity for networking, but first I'd like to hand over to Rudy Page, who's leading the mission. Thank you. Rudy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael, and for your team, particularly for Bernie. Thank you very much for the support, and to Sue today, with the running round down to the TV station, and of course to Peter Hurst from Trade Partners UK, the London region. First of all, I'd just like to call up Patrick and Toga to come up here as well. It's quite important. What we're trying to show with this London Joburg initiative, there are a number of things going on here. Very much about cooperation and businesses working together. So one of the first things we did was put together a management team, and the three of us are the management team of this initiative. Patrick and myself spoke about it in February this year, and Patrick had already done some work in South Africa with Togo, and we delivered this event in 8 months. So that in itself has been quite an achievement. I'd like to just quickly go through the members of the delegations and if they would sort of identify themselves. And so Baroness Howells, Joy Nichols, Femi Lana. And Femi is excellent as well, because everything that we've done with regards to the London Joburg initiative is up on our website, and it's Femi's company who made sure, even up to Friday, they were still uploading things to the site. So all the information about everybody is on our website, on the London Joburg initiative. All their websites addresses can be accessed through that site as well. I expect Femi will be looking for some money as well. And then there's also Albert Smith, Emma Cyrus, Adam Maduka, Where's Adam? Right, Adam and Amanda Howells. So that's the full team. I haven't left out anybody, have I? No, absolutely not. Right, so I'd now like to hand over to Patrick, and Patrick will be. No, sorry, I made a mistake there. I'd like to hand over first to Turk, to say a few words, then over to Patrick. Right.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. As Julie said, my name is Togo Moyondoro. I'm South African. I've been in London a year and 8 months. And in the time that I've been there, because I worked with the South African government before I left here, I used to work for a company called Jeddah. And I was actually hoping that Charles Yonker would be here tonight, but he's not, which is a Gauteng Economic Development Agency. I'd done some work in trade and investment for Gauteng province, for Johannesburg basically. When I went to London, one of the things that I thought about doing while I was there is to basically supplement the efforts that the South African government is doing through trade and investment in South Africa, trying to increase the amount of investment coming from London to South Africa, as well as trade, opening up markets for South African companies wanting to work or find business opportunities in the United Kingdom. One of the first people I came across was Patrick Berry. We did a project together in February when we brought the radio station, his radio station, down to South Africa to broadcast from here for 10 days. As you can imagine, being one of the biggest black radio station in London, this was an excellent marketing opportunity for South Africa as a country. I mean, people heard the broadcast live in London. The DJs were talking about what they'd seen, not just in terms of tourism, but the people that they met, business opportunities. Coming out of that, we sat down and they said to me, we've been thinking about other ways in which we can work in South Africa. It looks like there's lots of exciting things happening. There's opportunities, the infrastructure is there. It's a stable country. The government seems to be very, very committed to opening up business for international investors. I was very interested, very excited, because it seemed a way to focus what it is that we're trying to do, which is try and get businesses to be talking. So we talked about it. I was very excited about being involved in the London Johannesburg initiative, just from the perspective that I'd like to see formal linkages between businesses in South Africa and those in the UK. We've kept it quite focused to London because that's an area that Rudy and Patrick know extremely well. The access to the markets, the linkages, who's doing what, who's looking for what. So that was an obvious place to start. My role has really been trying to explain what I know about what South Africa is trying to do, what people in South Africa are thinking about when they think about going to do business in London or looking for potential partners from London to come here. So I think it's a partnership that will work because we are thinking right around the spectrum of, what is it that South African business wants to do and what it is that people in London will be thinking when they come here. So that's basically the rationale behind the London Joburg initiative. And I'm really pleased that you came out tonight. It's the first time that we brought a mission here. It's wonderful to see so much support. We're hoping to see it happen annually and just create the relationships because as you know, business isn't signed the first day you meet somebody. You need to know them, to build a partnership, to trust them. And I think once those relationships are developed and we have a formal conduit to do that business in, I think it's something that will benefit not just the South Africans but also the people coming from London. Thank you.
Now I would like to
There will be some crossover in the stories. I welcome you, and I thank you all for the warm welcome that we've received since we've been here. And on other trips, I've been here, this is my third time. I always found people in South Africa very welcoming, very warm people. I'm a founder and managing director of a local radio station in London called Choice FM. That's similar output to your Metro Radio on SABC. I'm also a director of Business Link for London, which is a government subsidised advice service for small and medium-sized enterprises. I first came here last February on a tourist board-led initiative, which was organised by Togo, as she mentioned. I was here for 11 days, during which we did live broadcasts back to London. I was impressed by the whole experience. I felt it was important that as many of my business colleagues as possible should be looking at getting involved with the market in South Africa. We've always held a special affection for South Africa and South Africans, so I wanted to encourage a development of greater engagement between black British businesses and small and medium-sized enterprises in South Africa. It is my responsibility as a board member of Business Link to champion the causes of BMEs. Also, I wanted to demonstrate to the UK government bodies that British black companies can play an important role in the trade development of the United Kingdom. Hence, along with Rudy and Togo, we created the London Joburg Initiative. To begin this process of engagement, we're here to learn and to share knowledge and to start to create some long-term collaborations for mutual benefit. I hope that gives you an insight into the purpose of our mission. I would now like to introduce Baroness Howes of St David, who is part of our delegation and rapidly becoming our political champion for BME.
Thank you. Can I start by saying Sanibonani? I gather there's 7 languages, and I thought I'm a fast learner, but I can't make it 11, quite, you know. So I've mastered 2, as you gathered. First, can I make a disclaimer? I do not represent the British government. I am a humble backbencher who is a thorn in the side of the British government. And if they say it can't be done, I do it. I do it because I firmly believe that we are one world and one people. And I have been on demonstrations for a free South Africa ever since I can remember. And another thing I want to tell you is that I lie.
Are you a politician?
I used to tell. I would come back from a demonstration and I would say to my children, there were hundreds of people there, millions of us, free Nelson Mandela. And they'd see the paper the next morning and there'd be me and one other person standing outside the South Africa House. I tell you this because I want you to know that I love this country. I didn't think you should have gone to the lengths that you went to welcome us here. Why did you bring the British weather? We came fully equipped for the summer. Have a look at Joy. Red sky. We insisted that she freeze this evening just to show you that we could all have dressed like that. Do you see? So we believe that the Caribbeans who came to Britain after the World War to help rebuild that country could give something to the initiative you have here. This is the 2nd generation, and if they dare call me mother, I can call them sons and daughters, but they're dead, is that they have worked against great odds in Britain to be where they are today. We can now publish our first 100 millionaires. And that could never have happened. Some of them don't tell me, but I think they're more than millionaires.
Not saying anything.
I'm not looking at anybody specially, but you know, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand we are serious about working with South Africans in their development. We like what we've seen. The country is beautiful. I've never been here. Even in the rain, what is it like in the sun? Beautiful. I want to come back, but I do want to come back when I can say we came, we did it, and we're pleased to be back. Now, when I go back to London, I'll have to explain why I am in South Africa. You know, we do have trade delegations coming down. They've never asked me. And the Croydon initiative you heard about only came about because a young black woman works for the Croydon Chamber. So she said, well, I would like to go, but I'm not going alone. So you had 50%. We are not talking about takeover. We're talking about a genuine partnership between the people of South Africa. We will find the skills and see what sort of partnership can be. We feel warm about being here. We were welcomed this morning by Mr. Molan himself, who assured me that the last time I met him, I gave him a hard time. I promise you, I'd forgotten all about that. But I intend to give him a very good time. I would say to you that you're in good company. The Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, you name them, they'll all say, oh God, she's coming.
Good wording.
Not because I am a terrible person, but I am of the stock of people who, you've heard about them, the people who say, if that's the way it is, I'll fit myself into it. Yes, that's the way it is, I'm going to fit myself in. But there are another stock who say, if it doesn't suit me, I'm going to change it. And therefore, they're very unreasonable people. I am an unreasonable person. I would like us to have change. We're going to do this together, won't we, Betty?
Certainly.
We're going to do this. We're going to do this with all of you. Do you know, when I walked in here, I thought, am I in Grenada? They all look like me. They're all great. And they all look like the people I spend my days with in the House of Lords. But any of you who look at the program realize that any time I get up to speak, I speak to red benches, because they all go out and have a drink. But I can tell you that they do listen, because we have a system whereby it goes into Hansard and they've got to read it the next day. So it does work, and I've been very lucky and feel very privileged to be in the House of Lords. And if I try to use my position to help the people, the group that I come from. I'm educated in the School of Life, and I deal with life as it comes. I promise you, Mr. Molan, if I gave you a bad time then, I apologize. But whatever I said, I meant. It's great to see all. I want to meet everybody, so I'll have to come back again, won't I?
Yeah.
So I promise you, I'll leave here with a bouquet of flowers. I'll buy them because I am so struck by the beautiful flowers of South Africa. It's something that I am not leaving without. I promise you, I'll be on the airport waiting if I can't get it. But on a serious note, on which I would like to leave, is that the young people, and I call them young to me, who are involved in this first initiative are people who are serious. And I think I can say they mean business. Give us the opportunity. We'll work with you. We want to learn from you. We want to share. And we want to have, you have a rand. I want to see the pung sign on the top there because the business has been successful. Thank you so much for listening.
Another important element of this initiative has been the support from Frank Sullivan, the Deputy Director for London, Trade Partners UK. And I'm glad to say Peter Hurst is here, who's kind of going to say a few quick words. And why it's important to mention as well is that at the end of the day, if we are going to develop strong SMEs, then the business support structure is there for everybody. So one of our tasks as well, challenges that we've taken up, is to encourage SMEs to use the business support service. So I work very closely with TP UK. As Patrick says, Patrick works with Business Link as a board director. So Peter, if you could just say a few words.
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I can't really follow that very well, but
Thank you, Baroness Howard. I think it's a big thank you to Michael Molam and his team for putting together the logistics of this visit, and to Rudy, of course, and Patrick also, who had a lot to do with the visit. Trade Partners UK London region tries to support, with our 42 people, something like 330,000 SMEs in the London region. Of course, they're not all exporters, we'd like them all to be. But if you think about the black and ethnic minority businesses in London, they represent something like 20% of those SMEs. So it's a huge percentage of businesses from the ethnic minority groups. And we can't help everybody, so our business about building partnerships is to broker our services through things like banks, business support organisations and associations, and we're working harder and harder with that agenda. And hence we're working with Rudy and with Patrick and to develop those relationships in London and have the same replicated over here in Johannesburg. And I think if we can start now on those programs, I think we can achieve some great things. We're working with the banks. I'm sure we can work with the banks here. There's a lot of work we can bring. We bring obviously some expertise in terms of our individual expertise as advisors. But more importantly, I think there's funding and support from government. And this initiative is very, very exciting for everybody who's attached to it. And obviously as Trade Partners UK, I represent David Train and Frank Sullivan here today. We offer our full support, and it's great to have you all here. Thank you.
Thank you. Two final points. One would really to demonstrate the seriousness in which we are going to ensure that progress is made. Many of us are very interested in the creative industries. That's one of the sectors, and you'll see from this document that ICT, creative industries, education, training, development are represented. I was very struck with the South African music that I heard when I came down here the first time. So a friend of mine has 5 radio stations in the Eastern Caribbean. So I arranged with him the other day to run a 6-week pilot on a Saturday afternoon, a 1-hour pilot just on South African music. And we've just started to speak to different producers and bring in music. So hopefully this kind of arrangement will be reciprocated. Also another person that I was very struck with down here in South Africa, Flick Asvat, Altered Attitudes. And the reason why, in fact, it was Peter on my last visit. He said to me, go and buy this magazine, is it Progress?
Yes.
There's a great article on B and the fair analysis on B. And I'd studied a lot of the ministerial 80-page report and all those kind of things. But when I read Flick's article on B, I thought that was such a clear analysis about how you move forward and how you involve the whole community if you're going to make progress. So very much on the work that I do is establishing stakeholders, but at the end of the day, it's about delivering excellence regardless. So as soon as I got back to London, I actually rang about an hour after I landed and spoke to Flick, and we've been communicating ever since. So we've worked out some of the kind of programs that we'll be working on in the future. And my final point now, tomorrow's symposium, and again, on the back here, I won't go into all the aims and objectives, but it will be a good program, and you're all welcome to pop in at any time in the day whilst we're there. And I'd just like to mention, I think it's Godfrey Matibi, where is he?
Yeah.
Oh, right, over here, yes. In fact, my colleague here, Albert Smith, made contact with him, and we met yesterday. Very, very insightful and great in terms of partnership development. So we definitely look forward to working with you in the future. So hopefully we all get a chance to talk to each other before the end of the night. Thank you very much.
Back to the networking. Yeah, well done. Very good.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not cold.
Oh, wow. Good.
I have to sure I'll be able to do these things. You didn't realize it was stressed at Joburg, but they had to have some connection. I have to have some connection this end. So that they can I say to you, just this first time, from Cuba.
Yes, sir.
GCSEs grades A to C, 17% of young black men. You know, that is appalling. And it looks as though here you're going to race ahead in a developing country. So there's lots of synergy that we've actually got to look at, and we've actually got to try and see what can we learn from each other. So I will be studying this.
Actually, adding to something you said earlier on about the assessment of skills and accrediting to some kind of template. In the National Health Service at the moment, we've got a massive program called Agenda for Change, and that's very much about a new band of pay band, and they have built into it a skills escalator, and that's very much, again, looking at what people actually do as opposed to their job title, and then being paid accordingly. So there are some models, and that has been very painful for big organisations, big state institution like the NHS. So there is a template there, so you don't actually need to go through that kind of pain, and with all the resources that they've got, as you can imagine. So in terms of translating some of these government policies down to the level that we're now talking about, and I will say it's about making a move forward from our present position. So, you know, don't concern yourself with the big leap, but to think in terms of the pilots, and also, as Amanda touched on, in terms of when you're dealing with local communities, think of the individual. Because if you understand how you're getting it right for an individual, to, you know, expand it, it's never the problem. Because you can use communication, you can use programs, engagement programs and things like that, it's easy. But it's that initial program to deliver for the individual. How much hand-holding do you need to do? How many people need to be in that pathway that moves the individual from maybe a negative to a positive? And really, I think that's the key, really, and I hope this afternoon, our third and final session will be that practical application. So in a sense, what we would be doing is moving away from the abstract, what we should do, what have you, to the very practical applications. Well, how are we going to do it? You've got those skills, I've got these skills, and that practical activity. And a good example, as I touched on earlier, flicking myself in talking about where we took one school in Harlesden, 450 pupils, one head teacher, very supportive of having black business professionals come and talk at assembly. Very simple, that was the start, talking at assemblies. Then we moved from talking at assemblies, including Tony Wade when he launched his first book. And I took professionals in there, health professionals from the Royal College of Nursing, to talk about their different professions. And then we made a little TV program about promoting skills and did a round table of teachers, parents and governors. And the theme was very much that if you've got talented youngsters, what support do you give them? Where is the support from? And then we now move to the last phase, which was a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, where we then actually had an award ceremony. So the head teacher said to me, we'd like to run some kind of award ceremony. So I said, okay, give me some ideas. And she said, well, we want to encourage maths, science, arts, most important, good character as well. And the two sections of the school, we've got the business community to provide a certificate. I mean, we organised it, we facilitated this. And it was touched on earlier on, this whole thing about partnership. activists, partnership facilitators. They're as important as the partnerships themselves. So we got certificates, we got local businesses to provide shopping vouchers. Then we got a fruit store to actually put together fruit baskets, which the head teacher actually gave away to parents who actually support the school, because what she said she had noticed, by and large, it's the grandparents that bring the youngsters to school, pick them up, because obviously the parents are at work, but there's never been any recognition for that. So we called it appreciation awards. So every year now there'll be appreciation awards. So it's that very basic sort of activity that if you start to do that kind of activity, that's part of an engagement process with an institution as important as a school. And that, when we talk about engagement, we talk about the process of building relationships, and that's how it's done. So in terms of some of the tough issues that we've been talking about, that there are very simple models that you can apply without getting too technical about it. There's a chap from working in Soweto.
Yeah.
Tell us again about what you're saying.
Yeah. I'd love to say this is an honor to be with such fine people from across the globe. People who are willing to listen and act. And I'd like to thank Godfrey for inviting us, because we had a chat with him the previous day, and he listened and acted. The problem with our community leaders, people who are high profile, people who have the ability to help, they listen attentively, but they don't act. We have a program, a brilliant program, that will make wonders for South Africa. We are so confident about it, but we need to get people who would be as confident as we are about this program. A program which is directed to the youth. We are currently unemployed. As we said and looked at the environment that we are in, we saw a lot of problems. We saw stagnancy in our communities. And we didn't want to see ourselves stagnant because we are unemployed. We realized that being employed or unemployed doesn't consider your destiny. Your destiny is upstairs, because there are people who are employed and they don't know their destiny. At the end of the day, they get their salaries in stagnancy. And we saw a potential in us to change what we see, not to complain about it, not to point fingers at the government, but to do something about it. Our main concern, as I said, is in the youth development. We sat down and drawn up what we want to do, what difference we want to do in our community. We don't have facilities, but we have our brains. We have abilities that will make a difference in our communities. We went to the government sector, they listened, they didn't act. Many doors were knocked, but as you know, politics is politics. You have to be someone to be acted upon or to be helped. But that didn't discourage us in this journey. We knocked and knocked. And again, I'd like to thank Godfrey for the exposure, because what we lacked was exposure, was the name brand, because in this society you need a name brand which is known, so that so that you can be recognized. But personally, I'm grateful to have people like you. So we realized problems in the youth community, which is emotional imbalance that causes suicide, it causes rape, it causes a lot of things, instability at school, lack of concentration in what they do, lack of goals. It contributes to a lot of things, sense of belonging, self-worth, anger management. Our youth, they don't have anger management. They can't control their anger. And again, we cannot blame them because they were not taught. Libraries are there, books are there, computers are there in our communities. But due to lack of knowledge, kids break in libraries and steal and vandalize community buildings and all relative building facilities. And the government will take them and lock them up, and it's not the solution. The solution is rehabilitation, reconscientizing their self-worth, letting them know what they really want out of life. So it's useless for the government to build fancy buildings around the locations, because there's no sustainability in them, because people who use them, they don't have knowledge about them. In the locations, there are no IT centers because of theft. Reasons will be given that they will steal, they'll steal the computers and other facilities. It's true, but the solution is not building the IT center. The solution is building a center whereby you are going to teach kids how to be responsible, to teach kids a sense of belonging. They don't have sense of belonging. So there's a lot of stagnancy, there's a lot of competition amongst themselves. They like having things that they don't need. They don't look, to have something, you must have a need, a personal need. You don't have something because Gerald has it. You must have something because you need it. Kids go to an extent that through this emotional imbalance and anger management, lack of anger management, they go to an extent of stealing cars. You see an 18-year-old owning a car, a fancy car, a car he cannot afford, because he is angry inside. He's got a score to settle because he was not taught how to handle emotional behaviors. So, as an organization, Marum, we came up with a plan to eradicate the problem that is at hand by implying personal growth, self-renewal, self-belief, self-management, self-control, and coping with whatever environment they're in. So we're in a plan of building a center where there'll be a survey where kids will be rediscovered. I think for now I'll end there, otherwise I'll go to holiday.
And at that point, we shall break for lunch. Sandy, do you have one quick?
No, I just want to raise one point. Well, I'd also like to thank the Big Godfrey for inviting us yesterday, because for me it is a revelation that we have to meet with Maroon. What Maroon is saying is what I am doing presently, they will take it further in aftercare, and I think I see a lot of networking, a lot of linkages between ourselves, and because we're also looking at youth development in the juvenile justice. But now, where after co-waiting time and all those things, where do they go to? And I see the linkage, and I'm just saying thank you for this opportunity for allowing us to meet like this.
I suppose I want to say to you that what I heard, yes, it's not an unusual scenario, and I know that you're giving us the facts, but I have a deep fear inside of me that you might be in danger of blaming the victim. I'll just take one sentence that you said, coping with the environment. And I'll say to you, what I saw in Soweto yesterday frightened me that people may cope with that environment. Anger is useful because this hasn't happened by accident. I will say to you that that was part of the European plan. If you want to look back at Zimbabwe, where the laws were made to steal from the natives, and if we cope with the environment we find ourselves in, we are in danger of blaming ourselves for that environment. If you don't mind me saying so, coming here I feel it's a bit of an arrogance to suggest this to you, because I know that you're doing the best you can. But sometimes, you know, it is better to stand back for a little while and see what the young people will do with the environment they're in. The business about destroying the building and destroying the computers, yes? You are not suggesting they do it. But then you say to the authorities, I have been telling you that this will happen. You're not coming here to tell me. But what are you doing about it? Where is the investment to ensure that they begin to appreciate that environment? Putting a few computers in a country as rich as this is an absolute disgrace. Because why give me a center in Soweto, in the ones I saw, that has computers and don't give me a inside toilet? Do you see what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that I'll give you a personal experience when I first began working in the community. I was told that I asked for a telephone. Yeah, so you have to have a two-pronged thing. A telephone I asked for, and I asked for towels to wipe hands, because I was working with mothers and babies. And the powers that be, who were all grey-suited, told me that I shouldn't have one because they will pull it off the wall and the towels. So I said, fine, I still want one. They put it up, and the first night at the youth club, they pulled it off the wall and they threw the towels down. So I knew that they were saying, I told you so. So I then went to the youth club and I said to them, I don't know why you pulled it off. I don't even care why you pulled it off the wall. But I am telling you why I need a telephone. I needed it because when one of your children gets sick in here, I've got to call the doctor. If there's a fire, and that's the means of communication. Yeah? That's the means of, I do not know how to beat the drum and get the witch doctor from Africa to run across to England to sort you out. So if that's what it is, I promise you if we have a fire here, I'm getting into my little car and I'm going home. Because I don't care a damn about you. Do you understand? And I then said that as for the towels, where I come from, we wipe our hands on towels. If you have something else you wipe your hands on, you tell me. That was
Monday evening, before the Friday came, they had put back the towels themselves, put up and they said to me, get the telephone fixed with one voice. Their anger was that. But then I had to go to the other paper on the other side, who were telling me that they told me so, that's the environment. And I said to them, quite clearly, that you are putting them in that position. I don't want their anger managed. I want their anger turned on you. So we will be coming to the next meeting of the town hall, all of us. Yes? And throughout my work in the community, I have taken more people to the town hall. And when I've got there, people said, what do you want? Go and talk to her before we come into the room. You know, because I bring the faces, and I'm saying, with all the work you do, if you don't let those people themselves bring their anger, you know, because you then go behind the curtain and talk to them. Because there is nothing they fear more than black anger. Do you understand? I now have to take it in another place. I'm not doing so well, but I'm trying. Can I ask you? I'm not doing so well. I can tell you it's harder up there. And don't believe that the people who come from your community, because they've made it, they've joined, they haven't made it. My God, it's just as bad there. I say this with a long experience. And I'm saying to you, if the brother appears not to understand what you're saying, or is going to go home to his luxury car in his house, if he appears to do that, remind him nicely. Because we don't always remember, but we do care, because we're a caring people. And you cannot do anything unless you love yourself and your people. I could see how much you love them. That's what you're saying. But I'm saying, don't blame them. Blame them behind the curtain. Why did you break the damn telephone? Well, when you go out there, you say, I know why they break the telephone, and you know. Sorry to hold up your lunch. But you have to have this two-prong. And whether it's people from your own community who's made it, or the people beyond them, because they too need your support to get those on the other side. You understand? This is not a joke anymore. This is not about you giving us missionary service. This is about equal competition in a competitive world. Equal competition. Remind them that America has no-go areas to this day. You cannot get a taxi to go to the south, and that's not what you want to say. Well, ask them, is it what you want in South Africa? You know, you're not threatening them, you're just telling them. You know, so you have the two-prong. You know, if I'd had the computer, you might have been able to learn, but you broke it up. That's okay by me. I can use one. You know, that's what you say there. And then the other side, you say, why? Let's be quite clear that anger management is for white people at this moment in time. They don't have anything to be damn angry about. We have a hell of a lot. And I'll apologize when they show me what they've got to be angry about. I'm going to apologize.
And on that note... Yes,
I will apologize. If any one of them says, yeah, thank you. Sorry about this.
45 minutes? Well, my name's Rudy Page, Managing Director of Statecraft Consulting, and welcome to the London Joburg Initiative. I'd now like to introduce Mr. Pat Corbin, past President of the JCCI, also Director of the International Chamber of Commerce. Pat Corbin.
Thank you so much. It's certainly a great pleasure for me on behalf of the Johannesburg Chamber to welcome you to our building, which incidentally belongs to us, and also to Johannesburg. I apologise for the weather, but I can only think you brought it with you. But the good news, I think, is it's getting warmer today, and tomorrow I think you'll see that we have a blue sky here. We're certainly, well, you're certainly in the right place here, because the Chamber of Commerce movement, as you know, its central core function is facilitating international trade. And I understand the purpose of your mission here is certainly allied to the role that we have. It was a pleasure talking to you all last night, and I certainly align myself with the objectives of your organisation. And if there's anything while you're here in South Africa that we can do, or even when you leave the country, we are a very good contact point. Interestingly, as you can imagine, we are on a daily basis in touch with the international trading community. And of course, Britain has one of our largest, oldest trading partners. And certainly it's a country that we trade with confidence and with great trust. And I understand one of the purposes of your organisation is to develop that type of partnership and trust between colleagues in this part of the world. So with those few words, I certainly am very delighted to be part of your visit to South Africa, and we wish you a very happy stay here and look forward to being of assistance to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Patrick. Come up. You caught me off guard. I wasn't aware was that my starting? Am I? Is that what's on the schedule? So, for you to introduce. It's brief. Never mind. It's meant to be informal stuff. All things live go wrong, but you go on. We'll get there. I've had the good fortune of knowing Baroness House. I was explaining to the group the other day, since the age of 17. And I know I don't look that old, but it was a very long time ago. And from the very first day I met her, she was always helping people. That's how I met her. And some 30 odd years on, she's still doing that. And when the current government gave her the position of Baroness, it's one of the best decisions I've ever known a government to make, because she's a real, genuine person that works for everybody, works for all the community. She's a real people's person. And that was one of the reasons why we brought her on this particular mission, because we felt it was important, as part of the business perspective, to also have a political champion, to champion the business objectives that we are trying to achieve and take the message back to the highest level in government when we get back. So without any more to say, Baroness House of St. David's.
Last night I tried to speak two of the languages in my welcome, and I think I failed miserably because everyone laughed. So may I say in the good old English way, good morning, and thank you all for coming and joining in with us, and to suggest why we are here. I think it's important that we make this clear to you, why we're here. And we're here because we're living in a globalized world. That is our main objective. The world is now, we're living in this globalized world, and we need to get to know each other and to work with each other, and not only offer friendship, but offer each other our expertise. So I'd like to say a special welcome to the people of Johannesburg, who has taken the time off to be with us. And we hope as we go along we'll be able to share. Now, it's our experience, and I'm sure it's yours, that prestigious developments, while providing needed facilities and stimulating pride do not always meet the basic needs of those who in the community who are least well off. I wrote this down because I wanted you to understand why more deeply we're here. And there are difficult issues to be faced over the next few years in South Africa, and we recognize that. Our visit to Soweto confirmed to us that South Africa's legacy of poor housing for black people is still, how can I describe it, is still well below world standard. What we would not accept in England, and we think there is poor housing in England. When I saw Soweto yesterday, this dimension of the stock of housing that I saw was frightening, and I think to everyone unacceptable. As we moved through Soweto, we saw some of the houses that have had improved circumstances. And we moved again as we drove along, we saw the ones that spoke of wealth and growth. And that's part of what we looked at with some pain, but with a lot of hope that it can happen and it will happen. When you look at the privileged in South Africa, and you realize that in the 21st century there is a decision that the privileged and the less privileged are willing to work together in harmony, I'm sure it brings much joy. And if we look at it in that light, you will understand why those of us who, I am certainly the descendant of a slave, and I'm proud of my slave heritage. But being that descendant means that I have lived through struggle. My ancestors have lived through struggle. We are still living through struggle in the UK today. But the struggle compared to the struggle that's on you is quite different. You've made the first milestone, and we all rejoiced. You will see me there with Nelson Mandela on the wall. And that day was a great joy to me to meet him. But we know it's not a one man. It depends on us all. Now, we saw those substandard houses, but we saw a community that is ready to embrace a better world. And I say a better world because my belief is if South Africa fails, the rest of Africa has no hope. I am not a prophet, and I will be pleased to come back in 10 years' time and tell you that I was wrong. But that's the feeling I got. I know the wealth of South Africa is here. It has not yet been shared by all sectors of the population. And closing the gap between the more affluent and the worse off will be driving the corporate planning and organizational developments of all its partners. And its partners are the people of Soweto as well as the well-off. Because if the people of Soweto are ignored, and I'm sure there are other places, but I'm using Soweto because I've seen it, we will not have the most important development in the world, and that is world peace and a proper respect for each other. It would not take 10 years for the people of Soweto to wonder what it was all about, the sacrifices that were made, if we do not develop partnerships. You know that, I know that, we all know that, and you may But I'm saying it because I believe that the South African advantage over the rest of Africa will be the willingness to enter into partnerships. This is the very first time that the descendants of Africans coming from the Caribbean, living in the UK as British citizens, are coming to unite here in South Africa, in Johannesburg, to begin a type of partnership. And that type of partnership is an economic one. But the economic base will have its impact on education, employment, community safety, housing, public transport. In every area, we can offer a relative small input into that. The business people who I've traveled with will tell you more of what they can offer. But I want you to know our object is mutual benefit. Mutual benefit for all sides. We want to see our visit here as a strength to you. Not a hindrance, but a strength, a real strength. We want to feel that we will have contributed to a South Africa where people will not be afraid to live in areas. Every part of Johannesburg will be a place where anyone, whatever their color, creed, religious, sexual orientation, whether they're women, they'd be pleased to live there. Now it's a tall order, and we can't deliver it on our own. You can't deliver it on your own, because there are forces out there in this globalized world that we are going to be working with. And we need to work with and not against. You know that, you've done it. You've worked with people to be where you are today. We offer ourselves as the advance guard to check the lay of the land, to see if you're happy with our willingness to work with you as partners to develop. This is the economic base. There'll be other people coming. Over the years, Britain has sent ambassadors in trade and industry. And I'm sure if you were looking, you would not see anyone the color of our skins. We're told that we don't trust each other. I am not sure whether that's true or not true. But what I would say is that the time has come when no matter what the color of your skin, we believe that we need to work together. We want to realize the dream of this city and this country. We want it to be safe. We want to be confident that all of us, those of us who've come, those of us who will come in the future, and those of us who live here, will feel confident to greet each other in the true friendship vein. Africa has sent peoples all over the world, some by accident, some by design. The African peoples are going to come together. And remember, when I say the African peoples, we now have African peoples who are not black. But we all are African peoples. I claim my African heritage daily in the place where I work. And there were lots of Africans who probably do not see themselves as Africans, but they are Africans because they have interests in this country, and is working together with them. Working together with us, we hope, in the UK, so that we can look at what's happening there and see what we can transport, but we can also help to export some of the things that are happening here. It's not one way, it's not a one-way traffic. It's a partnership between us. We want to feel that we can count on you, but you can count on us at all times. Now, an area, my own business interest, if I may say, is in the area of theatre. I know it would not come as a surprise to you to know that there are 169 theatres in the West End of London, and not one of them is black-led or black-run. So if you wanted to bring a theatre group to London, you would have to negotiate not with any black people at all. And we live there. So we decided we want to put that right. And we are now in the process of building a theatre. It's hard work. We've got the ground. We have got the authorities to recognize that it is an important thing that we do. So we're looking for the money to do it. We're not asking you for money, but we're saying we hope that you will feel free when you want to bring artists to London, that you can book the Tower Westminster Theatre, because it's my dream and it will be a reality. If it doesn't happen in my lifetime, having started the dream, it will happen. I've got a very small video which takes 5 minutes, which I hope you'll be able to look at, because it's now on level. Now, that's what I am involved in, but the other people will tell you what they're involved in. Now, the paradox of surviving in the independent global economy could be that we rarely start to build locally, everyone in their own locality, because we're building for this grand globalization. So we must start locally. So however local you feel, if it's the one time you say the time has come for running water or electricity in these 6 houses, that's about building. And we start locally. And everyone doesn't have to, but we have to, because we've got Soweto, and Soweto is all over the world in different phases. We need to look at it. We must start in this city. We have to start from the recognition and also accept the support, because the potential for local people is here, potential for the poor is here. But it doesn't mean that the rich will give to the poor. It does mean that the poor will make themselves available to embrace. And part of some of the work we're doing here will be to encourage you to understand how we have had to make the work of the poor relevant to what's happening among the rich. I feel that I have said enough in what was supposed to be my 3 opening words to you. I hope that the message that I bring, which is participation, caring about each other, sharing our business cards so that we can work together in the future, would be not necessarily an inspiration to you, because I think you already have that inspiration, but an encouragement. And with this, I'd like to declare this symposium open.
Thank you very much, Baroness Howell. I would just like to bring you back to the 3 strategic aims of the symposium. It's at the top, it's on the back of the programme. 1, discuss the potential of capacity building partnerships for future competitiveness. and of course we've been having these discussions last night and earlier on this morning. Explore international trade and services for local economic development, and Baroness touched on that, about the localisation, the cooperation internationally, and most importantly, the promotion of, to promote knowledge transfer and innovative practice. So they are the strategic aims. They're the strategic aims of the symposium. And what we're going to do today, we've got a number of speakers who have been pre-arranged, but because we are on a fairly informal basis, there will be an opportunity for some discussions around some of the key points. So hopefully you'll be able to take some notes on that. But before we do actually start, I'd just like to run around the table first in terms of just who you are, just a little bit about your organisation, and throughout the day we'll get a bit more deeper into practicalities of the way we work. So if I start with yourself, Flick.
Hi, my name is Flick Asford. I'm from Altered Attitudes. I'm a social entrepreneur, and what that means is I'm involved in social transformation in order to achieve economic growth.
Femi Lana, I'm from London. I'm with a delegation that's come from London. Managing Director of Future Trend Technologies. We are an IT entity specialising in a lot of technology-related areas: digital video, multimedia, website development, and training. The idea is basically to come here, understand, see what's being done, share practice, good practice, see what we can take back with us, and hopefully forge some very good partnerships.
I'm Rensha Freeman from Bakisa Communications. We're the only South African private company that is accredited by UNESCO South Africa, and we're also part of the committee of UNESCO South Africa. We work on different initiatives to help our government to reach its NAPAD goals.
My name's Albert Smith. I'm from London, and my organisation is MAPS, which stands for Motivation and Personal Success. We're primarily a training company, training and personal development company, with key focus on young people, with the aim of getting them, moving them from point A to point B. Hence the maps. We aim to map out new routes for young people through the use of a variety of methods, from mentoring to working on basic skills, personal development, that sort of thing. We have a whole range of programs that we work.
Hi, I'm Amanda Howes. I'm also from London, and my special interest is also in youth empowerment, particularly working in and around the criminal justice system.
My name is Malcolm Ramsey, also from Bakisa Communications, acting as a broadcast consultant, trying to merge all the new technologies and make them work in Africa, and try and make the internet and email accessible to every African.
Good morning, my name is Joy Nichols. I'm from London. I am the founder of Nichols Employment Agency, an agency that has been going for the past 23 years. Our specialism is employment, consultancy and training.
Hi, I prefer to stand. Welcome to South Africa.
Thank you.
My name is Karabo. I'm from Malum Consultants. We deal with youth development, re-conscientizing our youth. We are a non-government organization. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen. Like my partner said, mainly we look at the development of the youth, that is the life skills in particular, and entrepreneurial skills. So basically that's what we focus on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Malcolm, South Africa. My name is Henry Mahoka Strike. I'm partnership from Marum.
And mostly what we are focused from, as they badge about everything, but mostly we are interested to, is to bring the disadvantaged youth to the level of life that they must understand, the background that they can take themselves up and wake up and stand for themselves. Now we are there with them to motivate and bring them to the relevant sectors that can uplift them and make them become aware about their life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vivian Skusana from Black Business Supply Development Program. I'm a network facilitator here in South Africa.
I'm Tandi Makoko. I'm from Bosasa Youth Centers. We are managing trial awaiting youth from the ages of under 18 to maybe 11, 12 sometimes. And what we're trying to do is, while they are awaiting trial, to empower them to provide those who turn 18 or 18, 19 skills so that they can also participate and take an active role in our economy if they can, by providing them with skills, like motor mechanics, where they can also offer others employment because their parents and family are unemployed, and most of the children that we're working with are coming from poverty-stricken areas in and around South Africa, but they all come to Johannesburg to look for greener pastures or to look for their parents, and while they cannot fend for themselves, they get arrested and then we have to look after them.
I'm Peter Hurst. I'm manage the international trade team in London for Trade Partners UK, a team of 42 people supporting small and medium-sized enterprises in their international trade development. We sit in the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry, so we're more or less at home today. And I'm more or less at home here too, because I've spent 16 years living in South Africa up until recently, and I spent a couple of years very recently in Zambia, 6 years in Zimbabwe, and 3 years in the States, so I'm coming home today. Except for the lousy weather, and I advised everybody to leave their woolies at home.
Some advice.
That's good advice. Thank you.
I'm Patrick Berry. I run a radio station in London called Choice FM, and I also wear another hat today in that I'm a director of Business Link for London, which is a government subsidised business advice service to small and medium-sized enterprises in London.
Hi, good morning. My name is Leighton. I'm from the Black Business Council, which is a federation of black business and professional organizations. Unfortunately, Black Business Council will be ceasing to exist at the end of this year because we have merged with Business South Africa, which is our white counterparts. Thank you.
My name is Ada Mudwaka. I'm the Executive Director of ProDiverse UK Limited. It's a training, I'm from London, part of the London Mission. It's a training and management consultancy, and we also run a number of other services and a number of programs tackling issues of social justice, equality, diversity, minority rights, promotion of minority rights. And we run quite a few government programs. I'm here basically to see what we can do and share best practice, I suppose.
I'm the representative of the South African government based in Gauteng. I'm heading a section or a unit called Partnerships. We facilitate delegations that are leaving the country and those that are coming to the country. And we make sure that we expose our programs within the education department as well as in other interdepartmental forums.
My name is Emma Sirius. I'm also from London. I'm involved in arts and entertainment, all areas of it, and I've come to see what I can bring to South Africa, what I can take back to London from here.
I'm Andrew Fashidemi. I run a organizational strategy and marketing communications consulting group. Some of the work we've done is involved writing the marketing communication plan for NEPAD. We wrote the marketing strategy for the International Finance Corporation in Africa. So we do that kind of work, leadership change management as well.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Hold on. No, because you're sitting back.
I'm invisible.
Yeah, you're
No.
not invisible. You're not invisible.
I wish I was. My name is Tej Skota. I work for Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Tola Morandoro, with the London Joburg management team of the London Joburg Initiative. My role really is as somebody who's lived in South Africa, worked in trade investment, and that's the role that I'm playing within this management team.
Tinde Mabita. I've just relocated from the UK over a year ago. So I'm in the process of setting up a financial consulting consultancy for small and medium-sized businesses.
Okay, my name is Naya. I just moved from London about 2 months ago. I'm going to be heading up the client service division of an ad agency in Durban called FCB. But the area that we specialise in, or that we're going to specialise in, is the black emerging markets. So advertising which does not generally reach the black people in the rural areas. So, and I was told about this meeting this morning. So.
Hi, I'm Ola Mokrede, and I'm visiting South Africa for the first time, looking at opportunities over here. I have a media and entertainment background in the UK and Nigeria.
Hello, my name is Shade Akimejiwa. I recently relocated from the UK last year, December. I'm a founder of a beauty educational training center, basically training the existing beauticians in a new technique which we brought over from the UK. And I'm hoping to actually get into mainly the black people in the beauty industry in order to get them to run their own businesses successfully.
Thank you. And my name's Rudy Page. Don't want to spend all day talking about what I do, but basically I run a management consultancy called Statecraft Consulting. And I do a lot of work, best way to describe it would be the higher echelons of the public and private sectors. So what I do is actually devise the programs that public bodies, major public bodies, will use as their engagement strategy for the beneficiaries that may be local communities, it may be SMEs. So I'm not only involved in local communities understanding the structures and the access points to the institutions, but actually involved within the institutions to get the staff to actually understand much more about the communities that they're serving. So very much the kind of projects I manage, again, it's cross-sectorial. So I do a lot of work in health, construction, creative industries, all the structural programs that are necessary for communities to access. And also what I've been responsible for in the last few months is looking at how we translate government policy into corporate objectives. And as I say, and when they're implemented, but then also to turn those objectives that are being implemented into an academy. So I've started the first corporate academy for African Caribbean businesses in the UK. I'm working very closely with the Association of Corporate Universities and Academies, and that whole program is going to be launched next month. And I'm used to putting together international partnership programs. I pioneered in the UK through quite a big project where I linked 14 organisations together called the Synergy Project, which a few of you have sent it around. It's on the website, and we linked the public, private and not-for-profit sectors. And then that model has been used in quite a lot of major projects. And also, we've done a lot of work with schools, and it's the link with the B program. When I first read Flick's article, which was brought to my notice by Peter, that I realised that the synergy model in London was the correct sort of instrument to engage the B program here in South Africa. Because in terms of process and the transparency and the necessary understanding, and the similar institutions all trying to do the same things, because there's lots of us who think in terms of international cooperation and economic growth, whether you're in a developed country or developing country, the local communities want the same thing. So you've got to try and work out, well, what is the process that is going to, and the pathway that's going to link the international trade and services down to the benefits of the local communities. So looking at the B programme, we can see the aspirations of the programme, and we can also see the opportunities for partnership working. So when Patrick and myself started to think about what we would do in South Africa, I thought the best way is to, let's see if we could put together a symposium, some kind of round table activity, so that everybody can bring their ideas, and you can think about at the end of the day what the consensus is for moving in partnership to move forward. Because all the time, you've always got lots of talented individuals, and we could all sit here and tell you what we do and how we do it and get on with it. But the biggest challenge all the time for talented people is how do they actually work together with other people. And this is the basis of synergy. And the Baroness touched on it a bit, where the synergy is about stakeholders. So all stakeholders are of equal value, regardless of where you may be in the pecking order of society or within your local community, you know, whether in the public sector or the private sector. So that's been very much our focus. And the use of communication has been extremely important. And that's why my background is in international marketing. I've actually worked in 20 countries, so South Africa will be my 21st country. And so I think very much in terms of the people we're trying to encourage to access the services is that what are their accepted means of communication? Who are their opinion formers? Who are their leaders? And then what we should be doing is putting our expertise and content into those means. So I'm very interested in terms of the use of communication that's been mentioned. One other thing, some of you will see this bag, and we've had lots of jokes about this, because can you believe that I came through customs from London, you know, 40 of these little bags. Now this is volcanic ash from Montserrat, and I don't know, Montserrat's in the Caribbean, you may or may not have heard of it, but why I thought it was important to bring this, because I was trying to think, well, at the symposium, what little gift, but what could also give a message. Now, 5 years ago, the volcano on Montserrat erupted and basically laid to waste 2/3 of the island. Half of the society had to leave, many located to UK. So many people lost absolutely everything. And they're in fact rebuilding the whole society in terms of the physical infrastructure in the north of the island. So it's actually one big regeneration project. So the buildings are easy to put up, but of course people psychologically thinking about what they have, because it was a relatively prosperous society, Montserrat was, in the Caribbean. And now they're under grant aid and they're having to rebuild. So the volcano which devastated the society and everything is now in fact the central thing that in the end is going to bring back the society to the wealth it once knew, because it has an observatory, there's a lot of people studying volcanology, and this ash has got very many uses: ceramics, fish farming, all kind of the building, the construction industry. So I thought this may be a kind of a metaphor for some of the things that we have to think about. Of course, when you're dealing in local communities and people think, well, our neighbourhood's no good, this is no good, but at the end of the day, we've got to say to people, actually, but it is your neighbourhood, and within those neighbourhoods, we've got to get the business community involved. And you're actually seeing here something with some youngsters all holding certificates provided by the local business community. If you know London, this area is Harlesden, and Harlesden has quite a reputation within London. But the certificates for maths, science, and things like that were provided by the local businesses. And the local people and the parents all appreciate it. So, in a sense, it can be done. And the other thing that's significant about this ash as well is that when Patrick and myself were here in August, we met up with some music producers here, and they were talking about their local music, and they wanted to promote it internationally and what have you. So I said, in fact, a friend of mine in the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean, actually has 5 radio stations. So I'll have a word with him to see whether we could do something with South African music. And he said to me, yeah, okay, Rudy, as you ask, I'll give you a pilot for 6 weeks, 1 hour on a Saturday afternoon, playing South African music only. And what's so significant about it, the gentleman, John Silcott, who owns this, is one of the people who has all his property devastated. He's an entrepreneur, and in the last 5 years has started everything back again. And as I say, he's back on the road. So again, there's also something about even when you lost and you give, there's something that you can get back in return. So that's the story behind the Ash. Right. So our first speaker, and I'm going to kind of limit everybody to 10 minutes. I'm going to ask Pete to speak first, and then because of your shortness of time, Patrick, I'll hand you to go before. So, Peter, if you would like to open up.
Yes, I've got about 20 copies here, and I'll obviously favour giving them to the Johannesburg people, and make extra copies for those of us who go back to London. And for the London team, some of this may be a little bit boring because it's about our hometown, but I think London as an economy is bigger than 15 of the EU member states. So, like Johannesburg, it's the hub of a lot of what the UK is about, and a lot of people refer to, particularly in overseas countries, refer to the UK as London, and I think we would agree with that, certainly from an economic perspective. I think if you look at the key profile, and this is from the International Trade Strategy for London, so this is not Peter Hurst's work, this was a recent piece of work, but it's important just to understand the power of London, and certainly around the sectors. The business and financial services account for 39% of London's GDP. The GDP in London is about £22 billion. I mean, I won't read all this and I'll leave this for you, but it is a huge economy. And importantly, I mean, it's important for the people that we're here today, and we brought here today, and supported as Trade Partners UK, is that 20% of London's SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, come from ethnic minority groups. And that's a huge percentage when you consider that we have 330,000 small and medium-sized registered enterprises in London. That obviously doesn't include the informal businesses. So, and London, in terms of website development, and talking about its development, 96% of London companies have internet access, and 88% have websites. So it's quite an advanced economy in many states. Trade Partners, the organisation I represent here today, is the government's arm for delivering support for small and medium-sized enterprises in their international trade development, particularly around their export development. But more interestingly, I think in November it'll be relaunched, and probably the second time in 3 years actually, but that's the nature of the beast we work with. But more importantly, I think it's coming together under the new brand name of UK Trade and Investment. And that's important in a sense in that it involves inward investment, which would be important for our South African partners, and export development as well, all in under one roof. And that, of course, is going to bring about a lot of synergy for the programme that we're trying to work with here today, or start today. We operate in London, and I will deal only with London as one of the 9 regions in the UK, and interestingly there are 9 regions in this country. We have 42 people supporting the SME market in the team that I manage, and as you can see, with 330,000 businesses, we probably don't do a very good job. So it's all about expanding and extending our reach through partnership, and that's quite new for us. And with Patrick's organisation, Business Link for London, we partner with each other to deliver business support services for SMEs. And in the case of Patrick's organisation, Business Link for London, their support is predominantly around the domestic scene. I'll skip through this, as I say, I'll leave it behind. I think the important thing about the changes are the changes in our relationship building. And I just want to maybe take you, I wouldn't like to steal the inspirational thoughts that Farah's left us with, but I think that the whole point of partnership development requires a bit of honesty. And in London, we're no more further along, perhaps, than a lot of the work that's going on here in South Africa, and there's a tremendous amount of synergy. I say there are 5 stages in any partnership, and you could even talk about it as a marriage, really, and one-to-one, in business to business. And the first stage is the worst of all worlds, really, which is alienation. And I suppose that's where South Africa, in terms of its relationship with its communities, has been. And then moving to a state of tolerance, and in many cases, in both individual and in business and in private in the UK, we've barely reached the state of tolerance. And I think we would like to think we've moved into a mature state, but I don't think we perhaps have. And perhaps the midpoint, which we'd all like to get to, is a state of respect, and thereafter trust, and eventually partnership. And I think the questions would really be, where are we in that? And there probably are 10 phases or 20 phases, but if you just simplistically look at that, the honesty really has to come in saying, where are we today in our pathway to partnership, and really asking each other where we are in business and where we are in our associations and our business support organisations, and the honesty with which we have to deal with this initiative as Trade Partners UK, because there's a lot of scepticism amongst the communities in London, the business communities, the banks who haven't, all of the formal organisations have not been ideally supportive of the ethnic minority communities and have marginalised them no differently than they have in this country. So it's a struggle in the UK, it remains a struggle. And access to finance, access to support for ethnic minorities is still an uphill battle. So in honesty, you've got to say, well, where are we in London as individuals, as organisations, in this pathway to partnership? And it's not all roses, as those I'm sure who've come from London, who live in London, appreciate. So heading for the midpoint of working together is really the respect that we want to achieve, and the respect we want to achieve and develop with this South African Joburg initiative. And if we can obviously make some first steps really in this meeting and go away from here with some good contacts, develop those contacts and work on that sharing space aspect, working together, and then obviously to the devolved duties where we obviously start to do things towards each other's joint objectives. Just in terms of what we do, and more specifically maybe about what Trade Partners UK does, and that will interest the people here, and this is where we can offer support for Joburg businesses. Our sectors which are key to the London economy, and this comes out of the International Trade Strategy for London, and it's represented fairly heavily here in 4 of these sectors today, and these are 6 sectors. It's the media and creative and cultural industries, which account for £7.5 billion worth of goods. Information and communications technology, biotechnology, medicine and healthcare, which is where Rudy's very active. High-value manufacturing. Well, as those of you who've been in the UK, high-value manufacturing is moving rapidly outside of the UK, although we do have some pockets of still high-tech manufacturing. Finance, business and technical services represented here, and of course tourism and hospitality, as important for London as it is for South Africa. In our, I'll stop when Rudy kicks me, but he can't reach me.
He's got a string on one of mine.
I don't want to go through the list of what we offer, but we offer bespoke and individual service to clients. We work intensively as a team, and we have 25 private sector advisors working in the team. We probably work with about 450 clients on bespoke support. We actually give clients money against their export plans. They have to spend it against the plan, an agreed plan. They have to spend the same amount of money as we give them, so it's a match-funded situation. But we start with a diagnostic of where they are in the process, and it's a formal diagnostic, it's an online diagnostic, and we work with them right through market selection entry strategies, market information supplied by the posts overseas, the 213 embassies and consulates around the world, with their commercial offices. And we look at international pricing, international legislation, all of the things I'm sure that are run through the chamber here in Johannesburg. And it'd be very interesting for me to actually understand, as part of the partnership, how much we can help each other really in developing the services that we offer. Risk management, of course, is what international trade is all about. And importantly, perhaps for this community and for our initiative here, is culture and language support. We've got a new initiative coming out now which really supports not only people coming into the UK from ethnic minorities and trying to work within the UK, which is perhaps one of the most difficult markets, and having exported from South Africa for 10 years with Mondi Papering, Hewlett Aluminium, I can say that we did our worst sales market was the UK. We had 60% of the French market, 80% of the Israeli market, for reasons which we won't go into. and a lot of international business, but the worst market to sell to was the UK. It's parochial, pernickety, small-minded, and a very, very difficult market to sell into.
Peter, you're in danger of doing a Ratner on yourself.
But I'm saying the importance of that is that the people who are here today are here to build those partnerships and take away some of those, because it's very difficult to sell into the UK. It's not an easy market to sell into. And I'm sure that people from South Africa trying to sell into the UK appreciate that.
Okay.
I think that's really all I've got to say, really.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. Andrew?
Thanks. If you don't mind, talk better when I'm standing. So
no problem.
I'm going to talk to you a bit about the marketing communications industry in South Africa. Well, I used to be in the heart of it when I used to run the 4th largest advertising agency group in South Africa called Joburg. I was also their regional managing director for Africa before I kind of like moved away from mainstream advertising into core marketing communications consulting. And our very first project when we started off was winning a pitch against the advertising industry on writing the marketing communications plan for NEPAD in Africa. So that was a pretty good entrance into our business. I'll talk to you very, very briefly about black economic empowerment, which is probably the most crucial issue that faces the industry today. Constraining factors in the industry as a whole, marketing communications. I'll talk to you about some of the leading companies in terms of large size, medium size, and small size. I'll talk to you a bit about media, for those of you that come from media and entertainment, just the spend, and then just briefly touch on some of the key initiatives that are happening in South Africa, like Proudly South African, and then the issues about fragmentation. And that's in terms of empowerment in the industry and even empowerment generally. You find in South Africa there are 5 levels of black economic empowerment. Empowerment happens on an equity level, on ownership of shares. It happens on an employment equity level. You're talking about board and senior management positions. It also happens on a procurement or purchasing level, training and development, and then staff representation generally amongst your middle level and junior staff. Financial services charter just come out day before yesterday following on the mining charter, and you can expect that there'll be other charters. It's just another word for if you don't do it, we're going to legislate against you. So that's what's beginning to happen in the industry. In terms of the marketing communications industry, there are a couple of statistics. For instance, 13% of the marketing industry are represented by black chairmen, or so to speak, black CEOs. Only about 19% of the industry consists of black managing directors. 40% of new recruits into the industry, marketing communications industry, are black in the last 2 years or so. And 50% of the training opportunities were given to black people in the year 2001, 2002. You can see that there's a lot more focus on training and development. Key thing for people who are coming in here, British companies to understand and foreign companies to understand is you don't necessarily, while there is a requirement, yes, for you to trade off equity for black ownership and all of that, if you can't do it because you're a big conglomerate and it's going to take too much time, the point system allows you to trade off that for either more training and development or more employment equity representation, or in the issues of procurement. So rather than you spending a legislated 40% of your purchasing, you then spend 60%, and you say this is what we've been able to do, as against we haven't been able to give out equity. On the issues of constraining factors in the industry, this is still the marketing communications industry. There's quite a reasonable shortage of black candidates. The schools, the universities are not turning them out as quick enough. Apart from the fact that at the entry levels, you've got other industries that are attracting such graduates. There are limited resources in the industry itself. There's been lack of industry growth related specifically to the advertising industry, because you're looking at increasing discipline fragmentation, the rise and rise of PR, direct marketing, and all of the things. I'll talk about that a little bit later. there's been quite a, for people who are so creative, there's been quite a lot of internal resistance to change within the industry. And maybe it's because there are very few places that an ad man can go to practice his trade, so it's very difficult. And because the industry hasn't actually been growing, it's not been able to accommodate the inflow of black candidates, so you've got that problem, and that resistance is there. There have been unrealistic expectations of black talent. You get a young creative who comes into the industry and they expect the world of that person, or a black creative or a black client service person, so quite a lot of unrealistic expectations from their white counterparts. Mergers and acquisitions have also done quite a bit to the industry. You've got a lot of either mergers of convenience in many cases because they're pitching on a piece of big business, or it's convenient for that particular point in time. And they've also been very combined with that, foreign shareholders, the big firms, the FCBs, the Ogilvies, the Burnetts. A number of them were not quick to realize the importance or appreciate the importance and the pressures of black economic empowerment. So you've got things like that that are facing the industry. Leading advertising agency groups. Now these are, they might have advertising as the core, but then they surround themselves with direct to digital media, with promotions media, and all of that, with retail advertising. Top three, one of them, Loya is going to join, actually the second largest. The first is TBW SA, and it's part of an Omnicom group. FCB, Food Cornbrin, South Africa, and then Ogilvy and Mather, part of the WPP group. So those are the three top boys, and they've been the three top. They keep on exchanging first, second, third between themselves every other year, depending on who is lucky enough to snatch one account away from the other. And they've been like that for, they're all above about £100 million in terms of their billings every year, their media, amount of media that goes through them. Medium agencies, there are about 4 of them: Network BBDO, Jupiter Drawing Room, Global Group, and Heard Boys McCann Erickson. You find out that the primary defining criteria of the medium-sized groups is creativity. Jupiter Drawing Room, which I mentioned there, was recently mentioned as the 4th most creative agency in the world. And so that's what really defines those guys, the medium-sized agencies. Small agencies, you're looking at names like Morris Jones, they probably won't mean too much to you. King James, Harrison Hume Bates, which is part of the Cordian Group, was also there. And then DDB, which is also quite an international group. Media agencies that do quite a lot of buying and planning, CIA, Nota Bene, OMD Media Directions, the Media Shop, and so there's quite a lot of healthy media buying and healthy media planning, a lot of independent media agencies. Total spend, well, we're tracking on about 9 billion rand, the equivalent of about 900 million pounds. And the top spenders, the 5 top spenders are Unilever, who you all know, at about 27 million pounds. ShopRite Checkers, which is a local South African retail chain, quite African, has gone up into other parts of Africa, about 22 million pounds. Government, believe it or not, is the 3rd largest media spender in South Africa, at about 21 million pounds. We can trust that that's going to go up in 2004 with the elections around the corner. So that's they're going to become the largest spender in 2004 by a long margin. South African breweries, 20 million pounds, number 4, and Pick n Pay, another retail chain, at about 18 million pounds. Just in case you haven't heard about the Coca-Colas, where are they? They're between number 5 and number 10. So you've got Cell C, the 3rd largest cellular network, Vodacom, the 1st largest cellular network, MTN, the 2nd largest cellular network, all sitting comfortably within number 5 to about number 10. So, and if you calculate the spend outside of South Africa and other parts of Africa, it's pretty considerable, especially Vodacom and MTN, the number 1 and number 2. Key initiatives in the country, they're quite a number, but I guess the ones that really stand out in terms of their tendency to impact the economy would be Proudly South African, which really is an initiative focused on promoting the purchase of South African goods So buy South African goods and be proud of it. It was started off by a certain guy, I can't remember his name, got about 5 or 6 companies to put about 5 to 7 million rand in it. The chairman is a guy called Tim Modise, a very, very popular a radio personality. And it's working pretty well. You have a proudly South African stamp on your company letterhead after paying about R1 million to this fund or contributing in kind in terms of services. Brand South Africa, which is under the auspices of the International Marketing Council, is an initiative directly of the presidency. Basically market the country, South Africa, in 3 focus areas of investment, trade, and tourism. And that's going pretty well right now. They spend about £6 million a year just promoting the country in those 3 areas. South African tourism, which basically aims to promote South Africa, tourism in South Africa, in primarily 14 core markets. In Europe, you're talking about the UK, Germany, Italy, France, and the Netherlands. In America, so you're talking about the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In Asia, India, Japan, China, and in Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. So those are the 14 core markets. I know that much about it because we're pitching on it in the next 10 days, so it's been keeping me awake. And then the last South African tourism, which is possibly the largest piece of marketing communications business in the country this year. It's possibly equally divided, or if not slanted heavily towards PR. I guess it has also something to do with the increasing advertising rates as well. Sponsorship is holding its own. The likes of Vodacom, Standard Bank, Eskom, MTN are looking at very, very heavily involved in sports sponsorship, environmental sponsorship, business sponsorship. There's a lot of sponsorship in the entertainment industry as well. Vodacom switched 100 million rand, 10 million rands worth of media spend, about 90% of its media spend, about 2 years ago, solely focused on sponsorship with just advertising as backup, so increasing. CSI, corporate social investment, is increasing quite a lot in the country in the issues of deep branding. Choose initiatives that best reflect your brand attributes, that best reflect your brand values. You can see the likes of the largest investment bank in the country, Investec, doing that. And then brand design agencies are really beginning to challenge advertising agencies as well. Design, they used to have a lot of design as part of advertising agencies. A lot of their great design directors then broke off, went to form their own, and said we'll use design as a brand communication tool. They're going into other parts of Africa. Enterprise IG, which is a big brand design consultancy, has gone into Nigeria. Last year made $5 million just in revenue from Nigeria alone. 8 Seconds, which is another brand design agency, is going into Nigeria as well. So there's quite a lot of work as the privatization process goes on in other parts of Africa, and the companies that have been privatized then seek to rebrand themselves because of new investors. You then get them coming to South Africa to look for that expertise. Promotion agencies as well are beginning to really, really rise as well. FMCG, fast-moving consumer good companies, want a quick fix, so it's all about promotions and retail. And lastly, keynotes, wrap up. Legislation might follow on the back of empowerment. We've seen charters in the mining industry, in the financial services industry. If these guys don't get their act together, legislation will definitely follow. Advertising as a core discipline is losing ground to others, PR and stuff. Fragmentation, we're losing advertising professionals and creatives to other countries, especially the more established white creatives. They're going, they can hold their own. They're going London, exactly. Matthew Bull, who's chairman of Global here, is going to head Global in London. It's under constant scrutiny. We're very globally reckoned with. As I said, Jupiter's the 4th in the world. Hunter Scaris has held its own at Cannes. And reasonably strong African representation in the rest of the continent. And that's it. Thank you. brought copies for you, so that presentation is all on one piece of paper, so you can just distribute that.
Patrick?
No. Is there not somebody before? Or let me tell you.
Incidentally, at some stage we need to go for tea because the lady outside actually is.
Okay, well, if we... Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. Leighton, because I think if we have Leighton next, and just bring us up to date in terms of...
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
And then Godfrey. And then we'll break.
Thank you very much. Of course, I also have like time constraints. I have 12:30, so thank you very much.
Hold on, sorry. You're actually waiting to go now.
Yeah, we're supposed to break up the tea, so she was just saying to me that 11:30 would have been good because then I need to clear out.
Why don't we just do late quickly and then we go to
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Rudy. Just to give you an update on the business unification process that's happening between the Black Business Council as well as Business South Africa. The reasoning behind the need for us to talk with, or business to talk with one voice in this country, business was divided along racial lines. We had white organizations forming part of Business South Africa. We had Black Business Council is composed mainly of Black business and professional organizations. And it transpired that every time when we had to lobby government on important economic issues, we went there with a shopping list of agenda items, as a result of which, meetings were not productive and the results, were not what we wanted. As a result of which, we felt the need that, we have to have one business voice to engage government on various host of other of issues. That is the primary purpose of a one business organization that is definitely non-racial, that is not based on gender issues, gender demarcations, but only to focus on raising important issues that will improve the lives of a large number, a majority of the people of this country. To this end, we engaged Business South Africa. Various technical committees were set up. We formulated a vision, and we intend, the end state, we intend that we envisage a new organization which will have legal standing, and we also envisage an organization that will be capacitated effectively to meet the expectations of stakeholders. Stakeholders, we include, your communities, your governments, your corporate South Africa as well, because we encountered problems when we wanted to raise funds for particularly the Black Business Council, where you approach corporate South Africa, which is mainly white at this stage. We did not get what we wanted, as a result of which the Black Business Council was under-resourced more often than not. And we envisage, as well as an end state, that both these organizations, Business South Africa as well as the Black Business Council, will cease to exist, both of them as of the end of this year, 31st of December 2003, and this new organization, which will be called BUSA, Business Unity South Africa, will start operating as of the 1st of January. It was really a struggle to try to get to the vision of these new organizations because we came from different schools of thought, but ultimately logic and good sense prevailed, and the vision of this BUSA, of this new organization, is to be a unified and fully representative organization that can contribute to a vibrant, transforming and growing economy in South Africa. I would like to bore you with the mission statement of this organization, but let me take you through the key objectives of this organization. We intend to act as a principal representative of business in South Africa, nationally, regionally, and internationally. We also hope to promote and intend to promote broad-based Black economic empowerment. Just to digress a bit, for your information, the Black Business Council is the custodian of the Black Economic Empowerment Commission report, which Andrew just referred to now. That has been given to government, and whatever is happening around Black economic empowerment, it is as a result of this document that we handed over to government, and as a result from that flows the various charters. And also, just to inform you that We have an organization in the mining sector, which came up with a mining charter. We have an organization in the financial services sector, which was part of the financial services charter, which was recently launched the other day. There is also discussions, the ICT charter, Information and Communications Technology charter, is also coming out. There are discussions around that as well. And we also have an organization, the property practitioners, which they also intend to come up with a property charter. Some of our key objectives as well will be to represent view of members at national, regional, and international forums. And we also expect to enable business to play a meaningful strategic role in South Africa's overall development. The membership of this new organization, it will be composed of all current members of Business South Africa as well as all current members of the Black Business Council. However, these members must comply with certain basic criteria, meaning that, some of which would be they have to be non-racial, they have to be governed by democratic procedures. And these members must have a constitution. These organizations must have a national significance. Also, these organizations must be able to obtain mandates from their affiliates. And to this end, we are saying there are some organizations amongst these Business South Africa as well as the Black Business Council. There are organizations that will struggle, some of them will struggle to meet these requirements that we have set. We have given them a year in which to comply. And you'd find that there are similar organizations in similar fields. You'd find an IT organization in BSA and an IT organization in Business South Africa. We are saying every endeavor should be made to ensure that these organizations come together. And we shall assist in facilitating that we have one organization instead of a duplication of organizations in both of these. And also, the additional criteria for these new members, for new membership, would be that the organization must be exclusively representing the interests of businesses, employers, or business or professional people. This new organization has to stand for and defend principles of free enterprise. It must be free, and it must be an organization that is free and independent. Voluntary organization which is not subject to control or interference from any governmental authority. We also got into the exercise of categorizing these organizations between Black Business Council and the Business South Africa. We have chamber movements which we call multi-sectorals. We have unisectorals, which include your banking councils, your life officers association, the IT sector, communication sector, minerals and energy, as well as we have a grouping of professional organizations, which includes your accountants, your managers, your attorneys. Unfortunately, Business South Africa did not have that group, so as a result of which mainly this organization is mainly of Black Business Council members. And we also have organizations which, for lack of a better word, we started referring to it as, other organizations because we didn't have a name for it, but now we are calling it corporate organizations because it has as its members top executives of big corporates in South Africa. Amongst these organizations, to name but a few, are your South African Foundation and the Black Business Executive Circle, as well as the National Black Business Caucus. And that's where we are at the moment. We have also set up a startup committee, which will be meeting early next week to sort of draw up a program of action into the, how we're going to start business as of the 1st of January. Now we are both organizations are engaged in winding down processes because there are contractual obligations which we have to comply with. And BUSA, as it were, has not started operating, but we work together on any other issue that needs our input for the betterment of everybody living in this country.
Right, can I just ask you a question? In terms of international trade, because again, from studying a lot of the B program and a lot of South African material, I don't see a lot of outward engagement in terms of, I mean, is there going to be a charter for international trade or some kind
There
of
is
forum
definitely,
that
there
you
is
would want to
definitely
engage with organisations, black businesses, the black business networks that are in London and things like that?
Well, initially the Black Business Council, because as I said, it was under-resourced. You know, we only concentrated internally.
But I'm thinking of your new regime.
In the new organisation, there's definitely going to be, yes, there's definitely going to be room for us to engage internationally. And to this end, I think we'll start getting in touch with Business Link.
Okay, we're going to have a 5-minute break. We're going to have lunch at 1:30, so we're running behind. But before we go, is there any significant point anybody would like to make or ask a question of anybody who's spoken this morning?
I'd just like to know, are you going to leave that? Is that something you can share with us? Or
Well, unfortunately, not this one, but I can email it to Rudy or to Patrick, so that at least you can have that. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Right. So, and as we come back, we'll start to think about how we put partnerships into action and the actual process. So, 5-minute comfort break. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. But I'll leave them. I'll leave
You're presuming. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to session 2. And Patrick, and then Godfrey, and then Joy. So Patrick, as we say, we want to give everybody an opportunity to say their few words and give their input. So if we can, maximum 10 minutes of those of you who are giving, you're on the programme to speak. Patrick.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. When we look at the initiative, under item 3 of the purposes of this symposium programme, we look at to promote knowledge and transfer innovative practice. Now, I sit on the board of Business Link for London, and as Peter said earlier, there's a relationship between Trade Partners UK and Business Link for London. We, in terms of giving business advice to small and medium-sized enterprises, we stop at Dover or anywhere the sea meets the coast of Britain, then Peter's organisation takes over. But generally in London, business support services are becoming quite dynamic and innovative. And it may be good for me to tell you something about what we do at Business Link, in case some of the models that we already have there are things that you may want to or may be able to use here in South Africa. Business Link is a small business service-led initiative with a specific task to lead the government's vision to accelerate the drive to make UK the best place to start and grow a business. We offer impartial and we hope expert business advice to London's 250,000 VAT registered businesses. We do miss out those who are in the informal economy, but we're trying to adjust the criteria of Business Link so we do capture, because obviously not every company in London is registered, or in any country is necessarily registered. You know, there is quite a vibrant informal economy. We have more than 150 business advisors. We have more than 150 business advisors across London, and our services are affordable, including some that are free. We provide help and support with business planning, management, sales, marketing, exporting, design, human resources, finance, information, communications, or anything you want to know in terms of business. You can come to Business Link, and we're supposed to be able to help And in many cases we do. No, we do. Absolutely. If we can't, we go to Peter. Like any business, we believe it's important to constantly seek to improve our service offer. And we've set ourselves some tough targets to hit by 2006, trebling our market penetration to 100,000 businesses a year, more than doubling the number of startups and businesses with less than 5 employees helped to 10,000, increasing survival rates of assisted startups to 73%, increasing customer satisfaction, which is currently somewhere in the mid-80s, to 93%. Listen to our clients to understand the areas they would like us to improve further and the services they would like us to develop and include. One system that we at Business Inc. think is very innovative that we're developing at the moment is called a Client Management Centre. We've invested in a state-of-the-art CRM system introduced in response to challenging targets for market penetration, customer satisfaction, and adding value to customer relationships. Main point of entry for our customers. By further improving our customer-centric working practice, the CMC will appreciably influence customer satisfaction levels and customer perception, increasing customer knowledge base and providing a sharper response to the customer's needs. Now basically the client management system is a massive computer system that keeps a track of the client from the first time they engage with the service. So if you ring in, automatically information will be taken down about your business and the information you're seeking on that occasion. You become registered into the business, and every time you phone, contact Business Link again, all the information about you and your past history will come up on the screen to the operator, and they'll be able to direct you quickly and efficiently to the right type of advice that you need. Now I don't think we're the only Business Link in London, in England at the moment that's introducing this system. It's not complete yet. When it is complete, we think it really will be a real piece of innovative work. One of the other innovative things that we're doing are what we call the knowledge centres. And these knowledge centres are key to equipping Business Link advisors and business support organisations in the capital to improve awareness and understanding of key issues, enable sharing of information, news and ideas, help business organisations find sector specialists. Knowledge centres that we currently have in existence include the black and minority ethnic business, finance, creative industries, ICT and e-business, manufacturing, people and skills, and London Business Support Network. Now these knowledge centres, again, you could see them as a library of information, mostly held on data on computers. It's not for the public, but for the people that work inside the organisations. So if I go along to Business Link and I want to know something about catering, for example, business advisor that I may have approached may not have that knowledge, but he could go into one of the knowledge centres and find all the data information relevant to the particular inquiry that I've made. The other thing that we're looking at is what we call supply chain. It's widely recognised that small businesses are at disadvantage when seeking to secure and fulfil procurement opportunities in both public and private sectors. Often they think procedures involved will be unnecessarily complex and costly. There are many opportunities in London, such as Transport for London, London Fire Brigade, who have a £30 million procurement budget, but very few small businesses actually engage in with that organisation. So the supply chain initiative is to help London's small business community through the procurement maze, provides recognised quality standard for procurement, giving advice and mentoring to enable businesses to improve their ability to supply the tier 1 suppliers. So there's many things like that. We also are pushing the investors in people to encourage small business companies to reach the right standards so that they can chase government contracts. And we're also involved in social enterprise. We involved with women in business. We run manufacturing advisory service. So there's a lot that we do at Business Link for London to encourage development and growth of business in London. And as it says there, our vision, we work together to make London the best place for business and entrepreneurs to excel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in a sense, on why business support is important, what Patrick's kind of said there, that you see many programs that talk about sustainability. And in local economies, unless you've got some supplier diversity, I don't think you can really get the sustainability, because where are the businesses going to get the money from to be, where are the clients going to come from if the supplier base by public and private sector bodies within that community don't sort of use them. But of course at the same time, people want good service. So there needs to be some good business support structure. So you can see the cycle of development that is necessary. Thank you, Patrick. Godfrey?
Thank you, Ravi. As early as 1994, the government made it policy for us to be involved in partnerships. And that is how we were appointed, from our previous teaching profession as becoming now partnership activists. And that is how I had to change my, focus of teaching to become a facilitator in terms of improving partnerships within the whole community, where government has to communicate with the private sector, community-based organization, non-government organization, non-profit making, as well as all our foreign, partners. I mean, all the embassies, consul general houses, consular houses, high commissioners, they are part of our stakeholders. Now the opportunities, let me first refer to our challenges at the moment where we are. Government had to implement a new curriculum, and we took away the other curriculum, like moving it there and taking the new one. And without training our teachers, capacity building, we just took a new curriculum, tried to implement it without even preparing the teachers. No learning material, no learning support material or learning programs. We just went in and said we're going to do business. And we started going out all over the world, bring in partners to say, what do you know with regard to curriculum implementation processes? And they started workshopping teachers overnight. The next day the teacher has to be in the classroom to manage that. And that has been going on since 1998 up to this point. We are beginning to move towards the first band of our curriculum implementation. It's called General Education and Training. That is specifically focusing literacy, numeracy, as well as languages. That is the foundation. It gives general education and training, skills of literacy, numeracy, as well as your languages.
Which languages?
All our official languages, because our target is for these languages to be used in the learning process. For your maths, for your sciences, for your technologies, you need a good language. At the moment, we've been using English and Afrikaans as the languages of learning, but we are beginning to introduce our indigenous languages as well as languages of learning. So the challenges are still there because there are no practitioners who have been trained to manage that kind of a curriculum. We are almost 10 years now down the line, but we have not started with the biggest challenge for education, that is the further education and training band. When they leave the first 9 years of schooling, that is your general, they need to focus now on careers. They need to focus on vocations, different careers, and now we haven't started with that area.
that is an area that is still, as you know, raw as a jungle. It's a jungle. There's no one who's chopping those trees at the moment. We need you guys to come in and start helping, you know, cut down trees, make sure that freeways are laid down, and then we can start driving the skills or prepare skills that will be driving our economy in the next. The minister has actually indicated that the rollout to that process will only take place in 2006. At the moment, this is the time that this partnership, I see, will play that role. Because we need to be engaged or to engage in pilot processes. We must pilot projects on these areas that I've referred to. Because the last 3 years of our schooling system is when we prepare learners to the different economic, you know, industries or careers, as well as preparing them for their higher education and training. Now, those 3 years are crucial. We have not even addressed that. We are battling with the first 9 years, reception to the 9th year of schooling, just to prepare our children to read and write. Because even the reading and writing, which was previously in our system, did not empower them to be good readers, good writers, good, you know, language specialists. And now that has been addressed partially, but the biggest challenge now is to implement this further education and training band.
In the UK, we call it post-16
Yes.
learning.
That is where our challenges are, and from there we must be able to can allocate the different skills as needed by the country.
And it's how you engage education with the workforce and the sector skills needs. So.
Yeah, the first initiative that we took early this year was to integrate all our vocational technical colleges and merge them to prepare them to be the first institutions towards addressing the skills of the country. So at the moment, it's about 10 months down the year. We have only managed to integrate them, and we have only succeeded in appointing their chief executive officers. They've not even appointed their staff. They have not even designed a program that these children will be under, you know, taking from next year. It's still a very, you know, gray area. We don't even know what's going on there, but we are saying we are not going to sit back and not go on and face up to those challenges. And that is where I see this kind of a partnership is going to make a difference. Fortunately, what we did internally, we are using our community-based organizations to assist government to address that as of now. But our short and medium objectives is to engage the whole world towards preparing South Africa for the rollout in 2006, because that group will in 2008 have the first certificate of that kind of skill that we're looking for. So we have an opportunity through this forum to prepare what role you people see could play. Because the challenges are, one, capacity building. You need a program that will prepare our teacher and professional development. You need a program where learning programs can be designed for that purpose. It means people in the ICT business will assist us to say, this is what we should aim for. This is what a country would need in order to manage its ICT. Accreditation processes. I mean, we are very flexible with regard to the registration of this kind of initiatives through our various, you know, interdepartmental forums. We also need something that will assist the department in terms of institutional transformation. At the moment, our schools are still designed in the old way, and they are not receiving, you know, the learners in terms of the new goals of
the learners
education.
Still not at the center.
They are not even central to the learning.
Yeah.
You still have other things, and the learners are coming, you know, second and third in the learning programs. And now we need intervention programs that will come at that stage to say, what is the industry seeing as a need to address the community programs. And you guys, because we are there, we are actually using business re-engineering principles, but we don't know them. We need people in the industry to come and teach our academics to say this is what you mean by business re-engineering processes.
And it actually, from a UK perspective, the old training and enterprise council model would be ideal for South Africa.
Yes, what happens is that we have started communicating with quite a number of our international relations in terms of countries that are committing themselves. They are seconding their staff from their businesses, from their governments to come and work with us. We have a number of them, and I see this forum as a means towards achieving those goals by either providing the programs or helping in the designing of the programs and the training of the teachers and our officials, and thirdly to make sure that the good practices that your countries or somewhere in the world where there were successes, they could be recommended for local adaptation and usage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Joy, if you can respond to particularly that part of the capacity of the professionals and the networks.
Yes, I'll get to that. Up until 2 weeks ago, I sat as chair on an organization called the African Caribbean Business Network. That network was the brainchild of the Mayor, Ken Livingstone, Mayor of London, who saw that there was a dire need for African Caribbean businesses to get together. There were successes in other ethnic groups getting together and really blazing a trail in terms of their business development and skills and business acumen. And when one looked around to see what was happening in our community, there was this huge gap. So the African Caribbean Business Network was set up to facilitate, to lobby for change, and to help nurture those businesses that that were emerging from our communities. And I have to say to you, in the statistics shows very clearly that within the African and Caribbean business community of London, we were seen to be the most entrepreneurial. Our businesses we were growing businesses on a daily basis, but conversely, those businesses were early casualties. And those casualties stem from poor information that either was sought or weren't sought by those people who wanted to go into business. So there was a great need for advice. There was a great need for access to finance, and also a great need for procurement opportunities. So the ACBN was seen as an organization that was going to champion those causes, and we still, we're making inroads into that. Businesses in the UK, and I'm sure here as well, would be can benefit greatly by associating themselves with networks that have already experienced the pains of failure and can say to its members, this is a model that is best to be embraced rather than perhaps another model. Businesses in the UK, African Caribbean businesses in the UK, or at least business people in the UK, contribute greatly to the UK's economy. And I think the last sounding was somewhere in 6 billion was turned around by the African Caribbean business